How did the 1970s shape the first slasher films? Imagine a time when horror movies started to get more intense and bloodier than ever before. The 1970s was a decade that changed horror forever, especially with the birth of the slasher genre. This era created the perfect storm of social change and cinematic innovation that made slashers what they are today. During this time, America was going through a lot of upheaval. After the Vietnam War, people felt distrustful of the government, and crime rates were rising. Social values were shifting with the rise of sexual liberation and feminism. These fears and changes showed up in horror movies, which began to focus on themes of vulnerability and chaos. The sense that the world was becoming more dangerous made audiences more interested in stories about unpredictable killers and violent acts. Before the 1970s, horror films like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho in 1960 had already introduced some slasher ideas. Psycho showed a killer with a disturbed mind and shocking violence, especially the famous shower scene. But it was the 1970s that really expanded on those ideas. Films like Black Christmas in 1970 introduced the idea of a mysterious killer stalking victims in a confined space. This film was one of the first to show a killer with little backstory, which became a key feature of later slashers. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, also released in 1974, brought a gritty, raw style to horror. It was extremely brutal and realistic, influencing how future slashers would look and feel. Even though it was more of a horror thriller, it set the stage for the genre with its intense violence and disturbing tone. At the same time, the 1970s saw a boom in low-budget independent horror movies. These films didn't need big studios to get made, so they could take more risks. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a huge hit despite its small budget, proving there was a big audience for this kind of horror. This encouraged more filmmakers to try making their own horror movies with similar themes. Advances in special effects also played a role. Better makeup and gore effects made the violence look more realistic and shocking, helping to define the look of the slasher genre. By the late 1970s, the genre started to take shape with films like John Carpenter's Halloween in 1978. Halloween introduced many of the classic slasher elements, such as a masked killer, a final girl who survives, and suspenseful stalking scenes. Its success showed that horror movies with these features could be very popular and profitable. So, in the end, the 1970s created the perfect environment for slashers to grow. Social fears, new filmmaking techniques, and the success of independent horror all came together to give us the first true slasher films. These movies set the rules and themes that still influence horror today.